Popping on today to share my next design team project for Country Craft Creations. I made a 6.5 by 8.5 folio using the Prima Fruit Paradise paper collection. If you'd like to see the walkthrough of the paper collection, there is a video. It's my last video on my channel where you could see each individual page and all the goodies that I got from Tammy from Country Craft Creations. Like I said, I made a 6.5 by 8.5 inch folio. It has this spine was 1.75 inches, I believe, or 1.5 inches, as is this spine. So you can see I used the beautiful, you can see the gold foiling on the paper. It was just gorgeous. I took a die that I have, super old. I don't even remember what brand it is. I can't even show it to you because I don't know the brand. But it's just a picture frame that I die cut out of medium weight chipboard, and I actually put some Nouveau gilding flakes on it, and let me show you that. They were the perfect color gold to match the gold foiling in the paper. So this is what I did, the Nouveau gilding flakes. It adds instant metallic foiled effect to every craft project. And this just goes everywhere. If you've ever used, you know that 24 karat gold, what's it called, gold leaf? This is very similar to that. It just gets everywhere. So this will probably last me forever, and you don't really need a lot. It was a lot of fun. It was the first time I used it. I have it in silver and also rose gold. But I just put some adhesive down, covered the little frame with adhesive, and just tapped some of it on and brushed off the excess with a brush, and you can see it gives a nice gold foiling look. I die cut the word hello out of, excuse me, some of the green cardstock that was provided in my design team package. And I actually did, I think, 4 layers of the word hello. I didn't have any green craft foam, and I wanted to use green to bring in the green from the flowers and from the rest of the paper collection. And then I used some Nouveau drops. Some of these, the vintage drops. This one is called, what is this called? Pioneer Green. And then I also used Dusty Rose. Then I realized I probably should do some gold Nouveau drops, but I don't have any. Crazy. And then I used 3 of the Prima flowers that came in my design team package. It's hard to tell, but they have like a shimmer. This is some of the seam binding that was in my package, and I just used a butterfly die that I have. I don't know if you can tell. It's kind of hard. The lighting today is horrible. Sorry about that. But I just die cut 2 layers of a butterfly and added him in, and it just looks so pretty. So when you open it up, I left the left-hand side blank because my magnets are here. There's 3 magnets. Over here, look how pretty that is. Oops. I know it's November. Thanksgiving was just yesterday, and Christmas is coming, but I don't know. I just love this paper. I love it, love it, love it. Anyhow, so again, I left this blank because I didn't want to make anything too thick because of my magnets are in here. And then we'll just go this way. We'll start on the right-hand side. I did a simple waterfall with some of the 3x4 journaling cards that says, "Orange, you glad?" I love it. Then I left the back blank to actually add a photo or do some journaling. This is a pear. It says, "You're perfect." Love the pink and white gingham. It says "Au citron" and then notes. And then this says "Every day is a fresh start." And then there you can see it's just some of the gold foiled paper. And then my little magnet closure. Then I just took 2 more of the 3x4 cards and made some little photo mats. And they live right here in this pocket. All right, so this is just a series of flap pockets, if you want to call it that. This is 6x6, and the paper, the tag I did was 5 3/4 by 6 1/2, because I wanted it to stick out about 1/2 of an inch, and it just fits in there. Fits perfectly inside that little pocket. There's the back side. And then just ignore that for now. Then here's the next one. So we have 3 6x6 pockets that are on the right-hand side with a large tag. Isn't that gorgeous? And then we have 3 of them that are 6 inches, 4 1/4 by 6 inches. And then they each have a large tag as well. You can see the front, there's the back, there's that pretty pink and white gingham. Now on my screen it looks like this background paper is yellow, but it's a really nice, I wouldn't call it sage green, but I wouldn't call it bright green. I definitely wouldn't call it yellow. But it's a real pretty green with the pretty butterflies. And then the last one is the pretty cherries with the gold foiling. And that's the back. And in the center we have another one of these big 6x6 pocket flaps that has a nice big tag in it. And that flaps down. You can see that one. And then there's a really nice big pocket here that holds 3 of the large 4x6 tags. Oops, sorry. I just added some of the seam binding and a little heart. Oops, I forgot to add something on that one. And then this one, I just added some seam binding and some baker's twine that I have that match perfectly. And then in this big pocket, this pocket goes all the way down to the bottom. I made another book. It is, I forgot, 5 1/2 by 7 1/2. This is one of the 4x6 journaling cards. It says every day is a fresh start, and I just used some of that gold foiled honeycomb paper, added a piece of the seam binding, and then I just made almost like a little junk journal for notes, and you could add photos or do artwork. I put the cherry paper in upside down, which I was very embarrassed about. But yeah, it happens. That's probably my favorite page in the entire collection. Love it. So again, I mean, you can see that's pretty thick, and that fits right down in there. Now you don't have to do a book that size. You can just do a 5 1/2 by 7 1/2 inch tag, and a 5 by 7 photo would fit in there beautifully. Oh look, the paper goes really well with my nails. Sorry about that. Let's put these tags back. Uh-oh. Yikes, I untied it. Okay, so that's pretty much it. And then I just offset these and I fold it up, flap, flap, that flap on top, close it, and it holds it shut. So that is the project. That's a good view from the top. So yeah, so I love this. I think I mentioned in the design team haul video that I'd seen this paper collection many times, but I was just like, meh, you know, and then when I saw it in person, I just absolutely loved it. So let's go ahead and get started on this. So I have made the same style folio cover quite a few times, and I am going to go ahead and link a cover tutorial that I did actually not so long ago. I think it was back in the spring, that shows you the step-by-step. I've already taken it this far where I've, right before I wrap the chipboard. So like I said, if you want to go back and watch the step-by-step, you can. So I would recommend you do that first, build your cover, and then come back and for the page construction. Now what you're going to need to do your, excuse me, to make your cover is some medium weight chipboard, and again I recommend medium weight for this. You'll want 2 pieces that are 6.5 by 8.5. You're going to want, sorry I put the score tape over it, but you're going to need 2 spines, and you want that to be 2 inches by 8.5 inches. And then you're going to want 1 piece that's 5.5 by 8.5. Okay, so the way we're going to lay this out, you're going to take 1 cover piece, 6.5 by 8.5, leave yourself a space, do a 2 by 8.5, leave a space, 6.5 by 8.5, leave a space, your second spine, that's 2 by 8.5, leave a space, and then your 5.5 by 8.5. And then you're going to want to adhere all that down to whatever your base cardstock color is. Oh, excuse me. Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me. Okay, what I used, my adhesive of choice today was I used art glitter glue to glue down the chipboard to the cardstock. And then what I did was I put score tape all along the perimeter. Let me just check that. Doesn't seem to be focused. Sorry about that. Okay. Right, so then I put score tape around the perimeter. Then I also put it the perimeter of the cardstock, and the chipboard, sorry. And then everywhere there's a joint, so anywhere there's going to be a bend, you know, like in between the cover and the spine, I put some score tape because that area takes a lot of abuse. And I was finding that my paper on either one of these 2 pieces of chipboard was bubbling up. So yeah, so that actually helps with the bubbling. So what I'm going to do is take all this backing off. You know, this is the most boring part, watching somebody do it, wrapping a cover. Absolutely boring. So, oh, shoot, no. Back up. Before we do that, we need to miter our corners. See, I'm getting ahead of myself. So what you want to do, there's many different ways of doing this. You can completely cut out this square. You can miter the corners. This is the way I do it. I try to leave myself at least the thickness of my scissors, so at least, I don't know, 1/16 of an inch, maybe 1/8 of an inch. So I come up right here and I angle and I cut out that corner. Gonna do the same on this side. I don't measure anymore. I don't stress over it. I stress too long. It just makes me crazy. So cut that out. You just want to leave enough right there so that when you bend it over, your cardstock covers that edge. Okay? Oh, and Tammy does have a new way, I forget what she's calling it, but she has a new method for wrapping chipboard that's very, very easy. I just forgot about it. And I had already started my cover, so you can check any one of her most recent videos, and you'll find that easier wrap method. All right, so let's remove all this tape backing so I can wrap this. So I used my desk to kind of start the folding, but then I'm just going to go along using my bone folder. Just kind of train the paper what to do, what I want it to do. I'm just going to fold it over. Okay, and then give it a good burnish. Okay, let's come down to the bottom. Goodness, I'm off center here today. I don't know what happened. Okay, let's do the same. Let's just start to train that paper. Get the bone folder. Right, let's go ahead and wrap. Okay. Burnish, make sure it sticks well. And then what I like to do is come over along the top with my bone folder. Sorry if that makes you nauseous. I need to move my camera up. Alright. And then just kind of flatten it out. Just makes it look good up around, you know, the edge of the chipboard. And then what I like to do is just give that in between each joint here. Just give it a little bit of help sticking to the back paper. Okay. All right, so then we're going to take this piece. All right, so I'm going to bend that little piece in. And then bend this piece in. All right. Okay. There's that. Let's flip this over. Let's do the same over here. Bend that little corner in. I hope you can see what I did there. Same over here. And just wrap it around. Right. And that is almost finished. So next, let's turn it right side up. So next what we're going to want to do is cover the chipboard here. Now, you don't have to use, you know what I neglected to say, I'm sorry, is this paper that I'm using to wrap my chipboard is the linen color of the Artisan cardstock from Country Craft Creations. I love this. I try not to use anything else. And the book that I just showed you, my sample, I used the craft cardstock from Artisan cardstock. Absolutely love it. Okay, so I'm going to do something different this time, and I am going to. I normally use score tape on this step, but I'm gonna be a little wild today. And I'm going to use art glitter glue. All right, doesn't take a lot, but that looks like a lot, but that's really not. All right, so, oh, this piece of paper, by the way, since our chipboard is 8.5 inches, I cut this down to 8 3/8, and I left it at 12 inches. So I just want to leave a tiny little bit of a border around along this edge and along the top and bottom. Just a little tiny border. Then I'm going to take my bone folder, try to flatten out that glue. One of the reasons I don't like to use wet glue when I do this is sometimes, if it's not a very good quality glue, sometimes you can kind of see the glue trail, but I don't see that here. So, okay. Now, you see I still have some left over here. So then I took a second piece. I'm going to have a little bit of overhang, but I'm okay with that. Now I have a second piece cut at 8 3/8 by 12. I mean, if you want to cut it down that extra, I don't know, what is a ½ inch or so, feel free. I'm okay with leaving it. It's a big piece of paper. Okay. All right. And now we're going to do the same thing, just make sure everything lines up. If you can see that little line there. This is all going to get covered up anyway, but as I was saying earlier, you can use your pattern paper. You do not have to use the cardstock, you know, because this is, most of this is going to get covered up anyway. I don't know, I just always feel better when I do it this way. Call me crazy. All right, then what, you see how that naturally is starting right there, is that, like, I'm just using my finger, but you can see where the spine is. So this side is the leftmost cover. This is the first spine. This is the second spine. See, I'm actually just using my finger. I just love this paper. But what I like to do is just lift up a little bit. Excuse me, on that top cover. And what I'm doing is helping this top layer of cardstock sink down into that little, the little fold there, and it's catching onto that score tape that I put in there, and it's just adhering it, and it's giving them that beautiful fold. So there's that one. And then I lift up again a little bit here. Just want to be careful. You definitely want to use some sort of a rounded bone folder. This one, aside from being absolutely dirty and disgusting, and I don't even know where this came from, this has a pointy edge. You can see it's so old, the plastic cover is coming off. Yeah, I'm afraid that would puncture the paper, so I don't ever use that. I got this one a couple of years ago from bonefolder.com. Absolutely love it. It's Teflon. The tip is just blunt enough that I've never had it tear through cardstock. So you can see right there. I don't have any bubbling right here, as I mentioned, because I put the score tape right there. Nothing's bubbling up. So I'm going to come over here. And I think that, you know, if you spend your time, take your time on this step. I'm actually going to turn this around since I'm right-handed. If you take your time on this step, your cover will look gorgeous. You will have less risk of cracking, especially because it's you know, like an off-white color. Everything shows. So yeah. So just take your time. You won't be sorry. So this is the right side, and there is our book, the shell of our book. Whoops, what is that? Okay, so there you go. Oops. Alright. So now, I've decided, I guess you can make the decision whether you want to, if you remember, your chipboard pieces were 6.5 by 8.5, then the 2-inch spine, 6.5 by 8.5, another 2-inch spine, and then this one's 5.5 by 8.5. So you can either put the shorter one on the inside. You can see here's the 5.5 ends right here. Or you can put the 5.5-inch piece on the outside and attach it here. I am going to stick with having this on the outside. I'm not a fan of, well, first of all, this has a seam right down there because I needed an extra piece of paper. I'm just not a fan of the closure on the left. I just prefer it to be on the right. No other reason other than I do. You know, it's your book. You can do it however you'd like, but that's how I like to do it. On this one, I'm going to actually use, a different kind of closure. I ran out of magnets. Can't believe, always have magnets, but I ran out of magnets. So, yeah, I'm going to dream up a different kind of a closure. So, all right, let's move to the inside. So we can start with the waterfall, or we could let's just start in the middle. How about we do that? Let me get my middle pieces. Actually, no. There is a method to my madness. I just have to find the madness. All right. So we will start with these large flaps. Okay, like I said, these are 6 by 6, and there are 3 of them. Actually, there's a 4th one, but we're going to do 3 for now. All right, so we're going to work on this right side spine. So your shorter cover should be on your right. Okay, so what you need, oh, I thought I wrote them on here. I guess I didn't. Okay, so what you need is come on. 3 pieces of your base color cardstock, cut down to 6 by 12. And I thought I wrote it on here, but I didn't. 6 by 12. And then you're going to want 9 pieces of 1 by 6. And I'll show you why in 1 second. Okay, so when you get your first piece that's 6 by 12, you're going to put it in your scoreboard, score it at 6 inches. So you're just scoring it in half so that you have something like this that looks like this when it's folded. Okay? And we're going to go ahead and close that up and make this into a pocket. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to take 2 of these strips. Now, if you don't want to get involved in the strips, completely understandable. You can just actually take a bead of glue and run it straight up both sides and glue it down and leave the pocket, the top open as a pocket. By all means, you can do that. But what ends up happening is you end up losing some of the space in your pocket. So now your 6-inch pocket actually might only be, I don't know, depending on how fat your bead of glue is, it might only be like 5 3/4 inches, whatever. But a way around that is to make yourself a couple of these little strips that are 1 inch by 6 inches, or whatever the height of your pocket, and score it right down the middle at 1/2 of an inch. And then what I decided to do is close it up on the outside of the pocket, just for something different. So I put some glue on that strip after you score it and fold it down the center with your pocket folded in half so that it looks, it's 6 by 12. I just took it, whoops, line it up with that first 1/2 inch, come on now, and be very careful not to go over that fold line, oops, that score line, whatever you want to call it. Then I just fold the other side over and seal it down. So then you see you have that entire pocket. Now this one, I got a little funky with it, so I'm going to have to trim off this little bit. Not a big deal. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing on this side. Add some glue. Then let's just close up this side. You can even stand it up. Hold your pocket closed. Yeah, my measurement is off just a little bit. Okay. Trim off any extra. And you can see you have a pocket. Okay, so then you're probably wondering how the heck are we going to get that to stick into the book? So that's why you have a third one. The third piece of 1 by 6, scored at 1/2 inch or right down the center. And we're actually just going to attach that just like that. So you're going to add some glue, and then the other side of this becomes the fin that you add into the book. So I don't know if you can see this. You're going to line that up right up against that fold line or that score line without crossing over it. Okay, actually we're just a little bit not close enough. There we go. You can use score tape for this if you want to, but you don't have to. You can use wet glue. I like art glitter glue. I think everybody involved with Country Craft Creations loves art glitter glue. Okay. All right, so I went ahead off camera and I did the other two. So now we have three of these pocket pages. So as in the finished sample, you can see all I did was attach these little flaps to the spine. It's very hard to see because it's all the same color. But I will suggest that if you want to put your pattern paper down first, you can. You don't have to, but that's up to you. I'm going to go ahead and attach mine. I believe the way I did it. Just put my ruler here. So if this is 8.5 inches, I wanted to make sure I left a 1/2 inch on each side. Okay, I'm going to add, I think I'm going to start this one at 8 inches. So let's add some glue. And you can space these out however you want. It's your book, your rules, your house, your rules, as I like to say. You just want to make sure you don't go over the spine, the edge of the spine, into that little valley there. So I just kind of line that up as best I can. Line it and make it as straight as you can. Yep, I'm a little bit crooked. That's okay, it's homemade. And then just burnish down. And you can see here, so here's the little flaps that we put in to close up the pocket. Once you put your pattern paper on those are just going to disappear, and it's going to give you a nice, clean, crisp looking pocket. All right, so let's add the other two. All right, I think I want to go put this one in at, oh, I don't know, fold it over, maybe come up to an inch above the bottom of the previous one. But make sure you put it in straight. Okay. So see, it actually has, this is the, it's so hard to tell with white paper, I'm sorry. This is that 1/2 inch spine from your previous pocket. So it has that little 1/2 inch gusset there. Right, and then we're going to take the last one, add some glue, and since that one was at 7 inches, again, I'm just going up 1 inch from the bottom of the previous one, making sure that it doesn't go past the top of your book, because I've done that before too. Yes, that's very embarrassing. Okay. Because if you're going to have a bit of a tag, you want to make sure that your tag doesn't stick out. Or you could always use a shorter tag for this top one. So, you see when you close your book, there's your pockets. 1, 2, 3. Alright. So since we are on that pocket kick, and then what will happen is you'll take your tag, and then down in the description below I'll have all the dimensions for the tags. Come on, get in there. Uh-oh, what did I do? There we go. And then you'll just stick your tag in. This one's going to have to be a little bit shorter because I started up a little higher, so I have to cut down the dimension of this tag. But your tags will just fit nicely into each of these pockets. Okay? Easy peasy. All right, so next we are going to do this flap and this flap and these pockets. Okay, we're going to do that first big one. So while you're making your cutting your from your cutting guide, when you're making your these 3, you might as well make yourself a 4th one. The dimensions are exactly the same. It's a 6 by 12. I'm just calling this the center flap. All right. You can see I glued it shut. I put the closure around the outside. Okay. Then I have one more of these strips that is 1 inch by 6. I scored it at a 1/2 inch straight down the middle. And then I'm just going to put some more glue on this little flap. And I'm going to put the bottom, hope you can see that. I'm going to just line up the bottom of my flap, of my pocket, I'm sorry, close to the fold without going over the fold. Okay. Oops. I'm a little crazy with the glue. And then, oops, didn't line it up well enough. Oh no, Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Have to do surgery. Everybody pause for a second. There we go. I was too far away from the fold that time. All right, so now you have your flap, your pocket with this little flap. So we're going to add some glue to that. Or you can use score tape, whatever works for you. And then I just took, so this is my center. It's in between my 2 spines. And just center that as best you can. Whoop. Well, that was real crooked. Okay. And then burnish that down so that glue gets a good stick. Now you could put a magnet behind here if you wanted to. I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's necessary to tie it down with seam binding or anything because all these flaps are going to be actually on top of it and it'll hold it all in place. Okay, so that was our flap. And now we're going to do our pocket. I'm calling it the center because this is the center section. Bottom pocket. So you'll want a piece of your cardstock at 4.5 by 7.5. Then you're going to score it at 1/2 inch on 3 sides. Okay? And then we're going to miter the corners. You've all seen me do this a million times. I mean, assuming you watch my videos. Alright, and then we're going to fold on the score lines and burnish. We're just making our little pocket. Okay. Oops. I would suggest that you use glue on a pocket and not score tape. Because if the score tape hangs over the edge, it's going to glue your pocket shut. So I know I have used, I guess that makes me a hypocrite, I have used score tape in my previous videos, but it's just for, you know, the purpose of speeding up the video. But if you're very careful and you're careful with the score tape and it's not messy, go ahead and use it, but it just makes me very, very nervous, so I just don't. Alright, and then you're just going to line up your pocket in between the 2 spines and glue it down. So that's your first pocket. Give it a good burnish. You can see here's your pocket. Just make sure everything can slide in and out. Alright, and this is the second pocket. I called it the center top pocket. It's actually it's the center pocket. So we're going to do it the way I do it. I cut a piece of my cardstock that's 3 inches by 7.5. I scored it at 1/2 inch on the two sides, the shorter sides. And then we're just going to fold and burnish on those score lines. You take some glue. Right. And then what I did was just come just about I don't know, what is that, 1/4 inch, whatever, above that pocket, above the pocket that's below it. That didn't sound right. And then I just glue that down. And the reason I did that is I want a long pocket. I don't have a piece of paper here. Can you believe I don't have a scrap of paper? Oh, I could use this. Because I didn't glue down this bottom edge of this pocket, you can actually put a very, very long tag in there. I think I mentioned earlier that I have a 5.5 by 7.5 inch tag, that little booklet I made in mine. But you can see that obviously you have that little space, that gap. When you put your pattern paper on, so I had one pattern paper on this pocket and another coordinating one on this pocket. I actually just cut the paper down. Well, that couldn't have been. I cut the paper down. Let's pretend that this is the same width. About 1/2 inch to 1 inch below that, into this pocket, and just glue down on the 3 sides and in the middle. You don't have to worry about gluing under here because it won't ever, the tag won't affect it. And then that's how you keep the nice seamless transition from one pocket to another. I hope that makes sense to you. I can actually show you what I did. So in this book, you can see, so here's that pocket I just did, and I actually tucked, I can't even feel it, but I want to say it's right around here. So I cut this piece of paper to hang a 1/2 inch below inside this pocket, and everything moves nice and neatly. That's because this is not glued down. That makes the top pocket deep enough to put that 7.5 inch booklet in. Hope that makes sense to you. Makes sense in my head, but yeah. I'm a little bit nuts. Okay, so, whoops. So we finished that. Easy, right? I think it's pretty easy. All right, and then we're going to come over to this spine. What did I draw? We're going to come over to this spine. And what you're going to want to do is, let me see, what are the dimensions? Okay, we're going to do the smaller pocket flaps with these flaps. Okay, so for those pockets, you're going to want 3 pieces of your cardstock that are cut at, I believe, 7 inches by 9 inches. Whoops, 7 inches by 9 inches. Okay, you're going to put it in your scoreboard and score a 1/2 inch on one side, rotate it, score a 1/2 inch down the other side, and then with the 9 inch side on the top in your scoreboard, score at 4.5 inches. Okay, so then you end up with something that looks like this, right? So you have the 2 score lines and then the one that goes across the middle. Then what I did is I just cut a little V where those 2 score lines intersect, right there and right there. Okay, and we're just going to fold along those score lines. Fold those 1/2 inch tabs. Okay, and what's going to happen is we can go ahead and, it depends, it's up to you whether you want to get rid of the top one or the bottom one. I'm going to suggest that we remove the top flap, and I like to cut right along that score line. Okay, so we're removing that score line. Then what's going to happen is we're going to fold these 2 in, and this becomes your flap that attaches it to your book. So we're going to take our glue, glue the right flap and the left bottom flap. Bring those up. I just don't want to get glue on my book. This is where it's handy to have a baby wipe. So we just closed up the pocket. Okay? And then this is your flap. Just make sure to give it a good burnish. I like to fold it and score it, or fold it and burnish it in both directions. Kind of loosens it up. Okay? So you want to do that 3 times. So I made 2 off camera. Okay? And then, just like we did, whoops, with the 6x6 pockets, we're going to attach them. But this time we're going to attach them to the left spine. And I'm going to make sure I leave enough room for the tags. I'm just going to eyeball this one. Add some glue to your flap. And let's go right there. Wait a minute. Oops, I have to start at the bottom. Don't do that. Back it up. Let's do it this way. Okay. There we go. Make sure it's straight. That's your first one. Bring that up. Right up against the next one. Oh, getting glue everywhere. Good thing it dries clear. And as straight as you can. Okay, there it is. I swear, does that happen to you when you craft? Like your tools disappear? I just don't know where they go. They're always hiding from me. Alright, and then here is our last one. Oops. Alright. Okay. So, but you're going to want to, after you glue that, make sure you bend them over. Give it a burnish. You have to teach it that it needs to lay flat. Okay. Doop, doop, doop. And again, this one flaps, and then these ones flap. Everybody flaps. Okay, and the way I originally had this designed is I put the big flap, little flap, big flap, little flap, big flap, little flap, and there's plenty of room for everybody. Nobody gets, oh wait, there's always one causing a problem. Alright, actually it must go like this. There we go. Alright, so then we're going to come over to this side, and what we're going to have on this side is a very simple waterfall, which every book that I make now, whether it's a folio or not, always has a waterfall because I just love it. This is just a little 4-page, 4-flap waterfall with a small little closure and this little pocket. This is a nice little simple pocket. So, excuse me, what you can do, or what I would suggest you do first, is put down your pattern paper. Whatever, if you want to cover this entire thing. I neglected to do that the first time, and I had to improvise. I mean, but it worked out. I'm not going to do that. So, because I don't know what paper collection I'm going to use on this one by the way. So, okay, so for your waterfall, you're going to want 4 pieces, or if you want 5, or if you want 6, that's totally up to you. I decided to go with only 4. You want 4, in this case, 4 pieces that are 3 3/4 by 4 1/4, and then I just scored on the 3 3/4 inch side, I scored at 1/2 inch. So what happens is when you fold that, and I had, where did it go? When you fold that flap to attach it to the book, you'll be left with 3 1/4 by 4 1/4, which is a perfect size for a 3 by 4 journaling card. And you'll have a nice little border around the outside. Okay, so go ahead and cut yourself 4 of those. And then fold and burnish. You can also make them, instead of a horizontal waterfall, you can make it, instead of a vertical waterfall, you can make it a horizontal waterfall, and you can actually make them, the flaps a little bigger, but I decided to stick with a vertical one. All right, so then you have all of them folded along that score line and burnished. You just add some glue, and then I'm just going to eyeball this one, which always gets me in trouble. All right, try to get it as straight as possible. And stick it down. So then you have that first flap. Then you're going to take your second one with your 1/2-inch flap, add some glue or score tape. I do use score tape on these. You're going to want to line that up right up against the previous flap, and then maneuver it, keep it flat, keep it straight. So you see you have your first waterfall flap, you have a 1/2-inch gusset, then you have your second, then a 1/2-inch gusset. Let's take your third one. Line that up. I like to fold this over and make sure everything's staying straight. And your fourth one. Again, line it up. Okay. Uh-oh. Right. So you see, you still have room for probably one more. But yeah, I think I'm going to stop there. And then you're going to need a closure. So my closure, if you're going to do the exact same number that I did, you're going to need 1.5 inch by 3 inches, your closure, and then you're going to want to score at 1/2 inch on one side. Okay, and then add a little bit of glue. Now, I don't have any magnets, so I'm not going to be able to close mine up completely today. But I want to make sure, so I try to center it as best I can, and then give myself maybe about 1/4 inch from the edge of the last flap, just so that for when it expands, when you add photos, or you might use journaling cards or whatever you might use. So if I had a magnet, I'd probably leave, see that's flat, I would just leave a little bit of space, a little bit of play in the closure for when you add photos to it. Okay, hope that makes sense. All right, so next, now that's going to make me crazy because I can't close it. Next we're going to just add that pocket up here really quickly. And I only cut this to 1.5 by 6.5. Oh, I don't know if you can see that. Oops. Hello, where are you? 1.5 by 6.5, and I scored it at 1/2 inch on all 3 sides. So, but that left me a very, just a 1-inch pocket. I don't know. I guess it works okay. Maybe just increase that 1.5 inches to 2 inches by 6.5, and that way you'll have that full 1.5 inch. It's up to you. You don't have to do it, but let's just miter those corners. Okay, did we fold those? I don't think we did. All right. Okay, and just add yourself some glue. And then I like to do it like this first. Just makes it easier and you don't have flaps flapping all over the place when you're trying to put it down. See how it holds it all shut? Just go ahead and add some glue. And then you can just decide how close you want to have it to your waterfall. I'm going to move it up a little bit so that I could put a strip of designer paper or pattern paper in between, just as a nice little accent. So add that in as straight as you can. And that, everybody, I'm going to actually add this paper clip to hold these shut for now. And that is seriously how easy it is to make the folio. I've actually made these as recipe folios. I've done, oh gosh, let me see what I have over on my, I did a spring farmhouse. I don't know, I have so many. I gave some away. But anyway, I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to use this naked book for. I'm thinking I might, I don't know. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. I don't know what paper collection I'm going to use yet. But anyway, so that is my happy folio for 2019. Let me pull the sample over again. Let's put this back together so we can go through it. Nobody look. I am seriously challenged today. I don't know what the problem is. Ay, ay, ay. Okay. All right, so put this all back together. You're probably like, come on, really? All right, so again, there's the cover. Love, 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 love these Nouveau Gilding Flakes, I think they're called. Yeah, Gilding Flakes. Looks just like gold leaf. The gorgeous Prima flowers for the collection and the seam binding. Then there's that beautiful paper with the pears and the grapes, and there's our gorgeous waterfall. And the pockets, the big flaps. I don't think I pointed out. Look how cute. All these little, these are probably what, the 2x2 cut aparts, or, and the back pages, and then we have the center pocket. Man, that is a big flap. That is, what did I say it was? Oops. Oh, for heaven's sake. 5 3/4 by 6 1/2. And that just slides right inside there. Then we had these 3 big tags, and I have more. And then we have that big book there, and then we have these little, the smaller flat pocket flaps. And it all just goes together beautifully. Easy for me to say. Yeah. So that's it. That's my project for the, let me see, for the month of December. And there's the naked one we just built. Didn't take very long at all. It's an hour and 3 minutes, an hour and 4 minutes. Yeah, and I'd say probably about another hour or so to decorate. I'm going to have to create a closure. I think I'm going to do, I don't know, something dark. I'm in a dark place. And then I think I'm going to use a Tim Holtz buckle to hold this closed. I don't know. It's kind of exciting. So thank you for coming along with me. I know I tend to ramble. So again, everything that you need to make this project, Tammy carries in her store at www.countrycraftcreations.com plus more. She has so much great stuff, and all the great papers are coming in, and yeah, and seam binding and flowers, and oh god, what else? Score tape and magnets. You know, I'm going to go and order some, an artisan cardstock, which I'm running out of that. I need some of that. I need everything. Anyway, so thank you so much for coming along with me, and I hope you give this album a try. It's actually really easy to make. It feels a little intimidating when you make the cover for the first time, but again, if you go into my spring farmhouse video, I do have a step-by-step tutorial, cover tutorial. The only difference between that cover and this cover is this one is 6.5 by 8.5, and that one was 6.5 by 8. So follow the dimensions that I give you for this video, and you'll be golden. So I hope you all had a really nice Thanksgiving. I know we did. Ate too much food. Took forever to cook and 10 minutes to eat and 5 hours to clean up. But anyway, so thanks for coming along. I hope you try this this project. If you do, tag me on social media. I'd love to see it. And yeah, I guess I will be back. I am making another project with this paper collection, and that will be up shortly. So thanks everybody. Have a good rest of the weekend. Bye.